Hey, everybody. Wait for a few more people to join in. Hey, South Paul Fox. Thanks. I put that together a little while back. Hey, Spirit. There's been some things today that's changed, and some things haven't. Hi, Tim. Hey, Sean. Sean, I see you're not far away. So, go ahead and get started. I'll be showing this a little bit more in detail. This is the water vapor, and like I've said before, I love watching satellite view, and it tells me a lot of what's going on in the atmosphere. I mean, to most people, they wouldn't quite understand what's going on and what you're seeing right there, but it tells me a lot. Visible satellite, infrared, and water vapor is the three main ones that I look at. But let's go ahead and go to the screen here. And this is the latest update. I was waiting before I went live with it. As you can see here, this little thing down there at Puerto Rico, which has been dumping a bunch of rain down there, it's still only got a 10% chance, and it's got to get way up here past the shear. There's still quite a bit of shear down here, and so it's really fighting it. I'm not as confident as as I was yesterday. About it, getting anything major. It's still can. Hey, Brian. But notice this other one that was only a 20%er yesterday. This is now a 40%. The National Hurricane Center is getting more confident, and this was definitely going to be one to watch. It's still way out here, not far off the west coast of Africa. And it's got to come all the way over here and get away from some of the Saharan dust that's all in this area. Plus, there's a little bit of wind shear out there. So it's got to get all the way over here before it possibly forms anything. But 40% chance, that's pretty good. I'll go ahead and show you the wind shear that 95L is fighting. Let me stop it here. I'll zoom in on it. Again, this is Florida. I know it's a little hard to see on this map here. Excuse me. But this is the shear that it's fighting. And there's still upper level winds that's going northeast while the storm's trying to go northwest. So it's fighting this shear, and the center of it is about right in here, just on the west side of Puerto Rico. So that's what's going on with it right now. And the models, looking at the European especially, isn't really showing this one, the 95L, to really do anything except just drop a ton of tropical rain down in there. Now let's go back up here, and I want to show you something while it's in motion here. Notice how this is curling from down around Baja California, going all the way up to Denver, and then curling down. I'll stop it here. And this is a ridge. Okay. Then it comes down to a trough, a real deep trough. And right in here's the cold front. I should draw that in a different color. Oh, wait a minute. It's not drawing. Fix that. Have more trouble with that. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, I froze it here. And if I can do something here. Oh, anyway, here's the ridge. And then the jet stream's coming down. And then this is what's called a trough. And this is the cold front. Now notice this cold front down on the southern end. It's pushing down into the Gulf. Now you got 95L that's down here trying to come up this way. But what is going to happen is this cold front is going to start pushing going to be pushing in that direction, and it's going to meet up with 95L. So 95L is going to end up merging into it, and it's going to squeeze all that tropical moisture out of it. So we're really expecting a lot of rain here in Florida. Put it back in motion. It's really cool to watch this. Now I can kind of show you something here. Load up an image for you. Now what's causing the that ridge? It's this high pressure system here. Remember, high pressure spins clockwise. Hey, Wing. And then there's a low. Let me load that up. This low is up in here. One of them. Oh, thank you. That's what I tried to do. So remember, low spins counterclockwise, and so that's what's causing this trough. And that tropical storm is going to run right into the that cold front, so that's going to kill it. Hurricanes don't like cold air, so let's go down here and look at it. I mean, it's really ragged looking. Now I'm running out of daylight, so I can't really show you a visible satellite. I can show you infrared. And this is 95L. Now, notice you can really see here, you know, the center is, about right in here. Really hard to tell. But notice where all the storms are. All the storms are way over here. That's because you got that wind shear that's pushing everything away from center. And that's what's holding it back. But that's the reason why you got all the storms over on the northeast side of the circulation. So let's go talk about the other one. Now this one I'm really getting excited about. I mean, it doesn't really look all that great. This is it here. This is the one that's got a 40% chance. And there is some circulation. Let me draw it here for you. It's a little hard to see where it might be, but notice these outer bands. I'll put red See how that outer band's curling around it? And there's another one here. So this satellite view gives me a pretty good idea, um, just by looking at the outer bands, where the center might be at. And I'm guessing it's probably going to end up right about right there, just by looking at satellite view. Now let me put it into motion and see if we can figure it out. Now it'll flicker till it loads up all the panels. It's really not a well-defined center of circulation, but it's right close to the area that I pointed out. You can really see how she's starting to get that counterclockwise spin just by looking at these outer bands. So this is definitely one to watch. And they haven't started talking about that. Look how strong this next wave is. The darker the colors, the colder to the tops, which means the taller the cloud tops are. So this is getting to be a really strong tropical wave just now coming off the coast. And let's see if that's got any spin. A little bit right in that gray area. Right in there. Getting a little bit of spin in her. So that's definitely going to be another one to watch. Now that tropical wave that we was looking at last night, that was just off the coast of South America, that just fell apart and went into South America. Now the European model has got one area of circulation that's going to come up and spin around the Bermuda High, and I'll show you where that high is. That Bermuda High is up in here. Remember, high is clockwise. So you're going to have these storms kind of coming up and coming around that high. So the European model has one of these systems actually coming up this direction. And let's hope it does that. It'll stay off the coast of Africa. But it's too early to tell. That's going to be like early next week when this next wave comes. Any questions so far? Well, we're in the Atlantic, and then I'm going to go over and talk about the Pacific, because we have a Cat 4 hurricane, Hurricane Eric. The other tropical storm did turn into a Cat 1 hurricane today. So we gotta just kind of wait and see. I really don't give this one down here by Puerto Rico that great of a chance. Oh, thank you. I try to make it as easy to understand. When I used to teach in college, computer classes, I was the same way. I tried to keep everything simple. The good old KISS method. So let's go ahead and talk Pacific. I'll switch over to the Goes West satellite, and here you can see the current tracks. This being Eric, and Hawaii, the Big Island, is right here. So It's slated to go south of there so far. It still could turn. But notice the track of Flossie, which is a Cat 1 hurricane now. It's headed right for Hilo. Now I'll turn this off and let's zoom into Eric. This thing is impressive looking. That's infrared satellite looking at a hurricane, a strong one. And I should still have some visible satellite out there. This thing's turned into a beast. And I haven't measured it, but from top to bottom, it's well over 100 miles. So even if this thing, the center of it goes south of Hawaii, they're still going to get these outer bands. And remember, the northeast quadrant of a storm, or the upper right quadrant, generally called the northeast quadrant, that's where your strongest stuff is. Well, since this thing's going west, mainly, the what we would call the most dangerous quadrant is going to be that right there. And that's because with it moving basically that direction. So this upper quadrant is going to be the strongest winds and the strongest storms that could produce tornadoes, quick spin ups. Now let's go over here to Flossie. Now Flossie don't look all that good. It is a Cat 1. Doesn't have an eye on it yet. Most of the storms, the taller top storms are there on the north side of it, as you can see there. But I'm sure by tomorrow, it'll probably get in a lot tighter circulation on it. Go back to the National Hurricane Tracks. They do have it, and in about 21 hours, turn into Cat 2. And some of the models has got it as a Cat 1. Some of the models, Cat 2. There's even a model here showing Cat 3. But eventually, when it gets close to Hawaii, they're expecting it to run into cooler waters. Your warm El Nino waters is basically down in this area. So as it starts going a little bit north of that area, this is all cooler water that it's potentially going to run into. And so with that said, they've got it dropping down to a tropical storm, which would be 74 mile per hour or slower. Now yesterday the tracks was showing, and even this morning was showing it going on the north side of Hilo. They're far enough apart. They are far enough apart. At the speed they're traveling, it's going to take about another week for Flossie to get where Eric is now. So they're far enough apart, they're not really going to interfere with one another. Now let's go back to the Hurricane Center. Go Eastern North Pacific. And take a look at Flossie. Now they haven't updated this. This page isn't updated. This is from 5 o'clock. There they was giving it a 40% chance, and it's already turned Cat 1. So they haven't updated this page yet. Let me do a refresh. Nope, they haven't updated. So I got to wait a little bit longer before they update that. Now there's the forecast cone for Eric, and you can see it just goes south. Look at the interactive cone here. Up. Zoom in. Now they've also got this one dropping down to a tropical storm by the time it gets close to Hawaii. It's still a hurricane back here. So, got to keep a close eye on that in case I got anybody that watches from Hawaii, or if you got family or friends out there. Let's go back and take a look at Eric, or Flossie, I mean. Okay, they haven't updated this page yet either. I'll probably have to wait about another hour. But that is the earlier forecast cone for Flossie. And it's moving as of earlier this morning west at 14 miles per hour. That gives you an idea of the speed on that one. And Eric, that's moving west at 15. So they're not going to run into one another. And as of the 11 a.m. advisory, they're showing 130 mile per hour wind, but I believe it's stronger than that now. Now the hurricane hunters will be flying into Eric tomorrow. They've already flown out to Hawaii and to be prepared for tomorrow's run, and they'll start flying into the hurricane. So we'll get a lot more information because right now everything is just what the satellite information's given us. So we haven't had any direct soundings or drop songs just yet. That'll come tomorrow for Eric. I don't believe that they'll be doing any flies into 95L. And they still got plenty of planes for that next system coming across the Atlantic. Believe it or not, they can measure wave height from the satellite. Yeah, most likely I'll do a broadcast tomorrow when I start getting information back from the hurricane hunters, so we can kind of keep an eye on that. But satellite view, they can do amazing things nowadays, and they can actually measure wave heights, and it's like, okay, it takes this strong of a wind to make that big of a wave. So that's one way they can judge winds. Uh, Pressure, they're really not given a real accurate pressure reading, but there is ways with satellite that they can tell that information. It's really cool stuff. And I'm sure there's buoys out in the ocean too. Your tsunami buoys that are scattered all over both oceans. Those also will give information, as well as ships that go in the area. Believe it or not, they get a lot of information from the ships crossing the ocean. So that's what's happening in the Pacific. Now there is another wave here. It's really not doing much of anything, but it's still something to watch. And this time of year, especially during an El Nino year, which these uh, Central Pacific waters are warmer than normal. So that means more activity in the Pacific for hurricanes. Now, most typically, when the hurricane hunters are flying, I can get some pretty quick, accurate information that's fed to the National Hurricane Center, and I'm able to get that. So every time they drop a drop zone and they get their read back and send it in, I can look at that. So I'll be able to tell a lot more tomorrow when they start flying in it. That's something I was just able to do this year. Uh, Finally figured out a way that I can actually get that information. So, got any more questions? Not much happening here in the U.S. So, we have a couple chasers uh, out in Arizona doing the monsoon chasing, and there has been some storms. Let me turn the satellite off here. And actually, there's a severe east of Tucson, and the monsoon season. I tell you what, I have a lot of fun running radar for chasers during the monsoons because it's totally different. I mean, I'm still looking at radar, but these storms going through the mountains do some really cool things. And it's really cool that I can watch the haboobs or dust storms uh, on my radar. Really cool stuff. Do you think this will be an active hurricane season in the Atlantic? And should the southeast be on higher alert? I really don't see for Colorado. I really don't see much monsoons in Colorado. It's mainly Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, sometimes Nevada, Southern California. Not so much Southern California. It's mainly in Arizona. But anyway, going back to the Atlantic hurricane season, it's a little slow about ramping up. Now, one thing you got to remember during El Nino, the Pacific Oceans is warmer. The Atlantic is not. So it takes, a storm. It's really got to fight because of the little bit cooler waters. Also, because of El Nino, at least at the beginning of the Atlantic hurricane season, there's a lot of wind shear that happens out in the Atlantic. Now, at the beginning of hurricane season is when the Gulf of Mexico is typically more active, like what happened a couple of weeks ago with Hurricane Barry. So, so okay, but we're still not nowhere near the peak. Later in August and September is when the hurricane season peaks. So Yes, stay weather aware. I say that no matter where you live. Always keeping an eye on the weather. And stay tuned to this channel because as things start ramping up more and more in the Atlantic, I'll be keeping a close eye on it and I will broadcast to let everybody know, just like I'm doing tonight, whether they need to, I wouldn't say worry, but be more alert. And like I say, with 95L, it could turn into something because, it'll still have a chance moving into them warmer waters with no shear. But I don't think it will have enough time now. Okay, enough with the jokes. So last night, I thought it might have had a chance, but it's moving so slow. I don't even have a speed on it. I mean, it hasn't moved but a few miles in the last 24 hours. So the longer it sits there in that wind shear, the more likely it's not going to be able to do much. So I have more doubts tonight than I did last night. It is going to bring a lot of rain, possible flooding, thunderstorms, naturally, but welcome to Florida, right? You guys are used to that down there this time of year anyway. But I'm definitely going to keep a close eye on this next one. This one that's out here. I mean, it's definitely the one to watch now. And I am a little concerned with this. The current cone that they've got on it very well could turn and come right across Puerto Rico, the Lesser Antilles Islands, and all those other islands, Dominican Republic, and come right up towards Florida. I'll do another broadcast since the last National Hurricane Center update is at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. So I'm going to wait till about 8:15 tomorrow night and every night that I can to do broadcasts to keep everybody up to date. Yeah, you can find out this information on various ways, but I hope at least you will come back and watch as I explain it and bring it into more simpler terms where people can understand. It makes it a little bit easier and a lot more fun to track these storms if you can understand. I mean, I could bring off a lot of meteorological jargon and go right over top y'all's heads, but I don't like doing that. Hey, thanks, Southpaw Fox. I could use all the biddies I can get. I am nowhere near meeting my goal that I was hoping to get to help pay for things. So every little bit helps. So, any other questions? Cool. Thanks, Zaldette. Thanks, Lizanne. Where y'all from? Put it in the chat. You living in Florida, Europe, Germany, whatever? I'm curious to know where you all live. South Carolina. Yeah. Southpaw, keep an eye out. Texas. Louisiana. I only been through Louisiana once, and it was driving through on I-10. I've been invited down to Baton Rouge, and I'd love to go there. Wisconsin? Yeah, that's right, Brian. You're way up there. I'm in Southwest Ohio, by the way. I know I have people in Germany and England and Scotland and Ireland. I used to have somebody about 4 or 5 years ago used to follow me from Hawaii, but that's when I was streaming on YouTube only. And I haven't heard from you. I used to have somebody from Australia too. Oh yeah, yeah. Hugo was something else. And in Southpaw, uh, let's keep an eye on this one because if that curls up and does go off the east coast of Florida, it could shoot right up and get South Carolina. So we'll have to keep a close eye on this for you. I do have family in Fort Lauderdale, uh, and I got a lot of friends that live all over Florida. I went to Fort Lauderdale back in the 70s. Didn't like it. I love the beach. I love the women, but couldn't get along with most people down there. I came back to Ohio. Everywhere I move, I come back to Ohio. I hope you all enjoyed my stream tonight. I've sure enjoyed bringing it to you. I'll have more information as these things get closer, so my streams will be a lot longer. And looks like I might have some storms near the area, so I don't like keeping my computers on when there's lightning in the area. My phone's been going off with a lightning app that I got. So I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. Thanks everybody for joining me. Really appreciate the donations, the bits. Um, if you're so inclined, let me check something here. If you're so inclined to donate direct, well, Streamlabs has been putting it in the chat. You can go to streamlabs.com/bgraydwx, and I think the minimum amount is $5. So if you're so inclined to donate that way, or PayPal, it's paypal.me/bgraydwx. Every little bit really helps me to bring this to you. So thank you everybody. We'll catch you tomorrow night, and I'll have a lot more information. In the Pacific, I'll have more information from the hurricane hunters to pass along. This other storms will be getting closer to get a better judgment on those, and I'll bring all that to you tomorrow. So thanks everybody for joining me. Y'all have a good night. Catch you on the next broadcast.